everyone, in this video we will discuss 4 questions related to speculative visions and their relevance. Rowe and Cotter study how people once dreamed of a perfect city, a city that would be complete and ordered and full of harmony. They explain that in the past many architects and urban planners believed in one strong idea to shape a whole city. This idea was a kind of utopia, a perfect plan that was meant to make every part of the city work together in one single design. However, they show that this dream don't last. When people tried to build a perfect city, they found that real cities are very complex and full of many different needs, styles and histories. In real life, cities aren't like nations that can be controlled with one simple plan. Rowe and Cotter say that the failure of these perfect visions is a natural result of trying to force a single idea onto a place that is always changing. They call the new way of looking at cities a colleague city. A college is a picture made of many pieces that are different from each other. In a colleague city, different styles, ideas, and parts of mixed together. This kind of city is more flexible and open to change. It doesn't try to look the same everywhere, but instead shows the variety of urban life. For Rowe and Cotter, the collapse of the old utopian idea comes from the understanding that a city must include many different voices and forms instead of one fixed perfect order.
On the other hand, has a different idea about utopia. He believes that the idea of a perfect ideality is not just a failed dream. Instead, he argues that utopian ideas are used as a tool by the capitalist system. According to Tafuri, when architects or artists create vision of a perfect city, they may be hiding the real problems of society. He says that utopia works like a mask. It covers up the difficult truth about how money and power work in society. In other words, utopian visions make people believe that everything is perfect, while they actually hide the inequalities and problems that exist under capitalism. Tafuri explains that these utopian ideas can help the system that makes rich people richer. When a beautiful, perfect plan is shown, it can make people ignore the struggles of many others. The vision of a perfect city can become a tool that supports the capitalist order instead of challenging it. In this view, even when architects try to break away from old ideas, their utopian design may end up working in favor of the same system they claim to oppose.
To sum up, Rowe and Cotter see the collapse of utopian ideas as a natural outcome of trying to impose one perfect order on a complex living city. They suggest that better idea is accept diversity and change urban life, a city made of many different places, like a college. Tafuri, however, wants the utopian ideas are dangerous. He believes that these ideas are not pure dreams, but are used to hide the truth about capital's powers and inequality. While Rowe and Cotter invite us to see the beauty in the mixed and changing city, Tafuri reminds us that chasing a perfect vision might actually support a fair system. Both points of view help us think about what makes a city real. A city is not only a work of or design, it's also a place where many lives, ideas and challenges come together. Understanding these differences is important for anyone who wants to see cities that are fair, vibrant and alive.
In architectural history, especially with modernism, utopia has been an important theme. Modernist movements aim to design an ideal future, but over time it became clear that these projects ignored the complexities of real cities and their social dynamics. In College City, Colin Rowe and Fred Cotter respond to the collapse of the modernist utopia by proposing a more flexible and pluralistic approach. Rowe and Cotter advocate for the idea of College City, which blends historical and contemporary architectural elements. These concepts envision cities that evolve organically with layers of different cultural and architectural influences. For example, cities like Venice and Rome, where architectural and urban elements from different periods have been layered over time, are concrete examples of Rowe and Cotter's vision. These cities reflect an understanding of urbanism where history and modernity coexist. In contrast, toward a critique of architectural ideology, Manfred Tafuri rejects the idea that architecture can provide a solution to social problems. According to Tafuri, although modernist and avant-garde movements in reality took a stance against capitalism, they were eventually absorbed by the system and turned into an ideology. For instance, the Bauhaus movement, which in reality aimed to combine art, design and social reform, later became part of industrial design. Avant-garde architecture, which seems like a radical critique at first, eventually became a product of the market economy and intervened with capitalism. Tafuri argues that architecture is inherently a part of the capitalist system and therefore no architectural solution can truly bring about social change. In his view, architecture either disappears within the system or retreats into irrelevance. While Rowe and Cotter propose a flexible urban model where historical and contemporary elements can coexist in response to the failure of modernism, Tafuri argues that such solutions remain trapped within the system and can never have a redemptive power. Rowe and Cotter's holisticity idea, where the integration of historical and contemporary layers allows these to be more human-centered and dynamic, contrasts with Tafuri's belief that architecture can never be independent of the capitalist system, and every solution will remain a part of it. In this context, there is a significant difference between the two thinkers. Rowe and Cotter propose shaping architecture in a more flexible, pluralistic, and organic way, while Tafuri argues that architecture will always be an instrument of the existing system and can never transcend it.
Rowe and Cotter criticize modernism's obsession with order in several key aspects. First, they challenge modernism's attempt to reshape the city and architecture based on order and rationality. According to them, the attitude of modernist planning turns into a rigid pursuit of order that ignores the complexity of urban fabric and historical layers. They further argue that modernist architecture has transformed into a strict approach driven by a specific ideological framework. This perspective creates a singular design approach claimed to be universal, applicable, erasing individual differences and diversity. The modernist concept of order disregards of human scale and diversity of everyday life. The rigid geometry has transformed into a strict approach driven by a specific ideological framework. This perspective creates a singular design approach claimed to be universal, applicable, erasing individual differences and diversity. The modernist concept of order disregards of human scale and diversity of everyday life. The rigid geometric designs favored in urban planning and architecture results in abstract and mechanical structures that failed to adapt to dynamic nature of cities. Modernist architecture's severance from the past leads to viewing the city not as part of a historical continuity, but as an object to be entirely rebuilt. Reuven Cotter argued that this break weakens the character and identity of cities.
Bravo.
Ultimately, they contend that modernism's rigid understanding of order renders cities' souls disconnect from their context and monotones. They see the absolute pursuit of order in modernism and mistakes as a mistake that dehumanizes, decontextualizes, and homogenizes urban environments and architecture. Therefore, they propose that cities should not be shaped according to a uniform plan, but should evolve over time through the integration of diverse elements.
Manfred Tafuri argues that although modernist architecture initially appeared to be a liberating and utopian movement, it eventually became a tool serving the spatial organization of the capitalist order. According to him, modernism, despite its promises of social transformation and emancipation, ultimately fell under the control of economic forces, reshaping urban space urban space to meet the needs of capital. The factory designs and mass-produced housing projects that emerged in the early 20th century clearly illustrate how architecture was integrated into the capitalist production system. The influence of the Fordist production model on urban planning is evident in the suburbanization process in the United States. This model ensured that workers lived in orderly residential areas near factories, maintaining the continuity of production. Similarly, Le Corbusier's Plan Moisson project, which proposed demolishing Paris' traditional urban fabric to construct large-scale residential blocks and wide roads, became a spatial manifestation of capitalist rationalization. According to Tafuri, even avant-garde modernist movements ultimately served capitalism. Movements like Bauhaus, despite advocating for art as a tool of social transformation, eventually merged with systems that promoted industrial designs and mass production. The fact that Bauhaus minimalist furniture and interior designs were later adopted by large-scale manufacturing companies is one of the clearest examples of how capitalism co-opted as aesthetics and ideological narratives for its own benefit. Furthermore, the urban renewal project that began in the USA in the 1960s turned into a process of demolishing impoverished neighborhoods to construct skyscrapers and commercial centers catering to capital. Tafuri asserts that rather than being a liberating force, modernist architecture ultimately functioned as an ideological apparatus that facilitated the spatial organization of the capitalist economy.
Conclusion: modern architecture, rather than serving as a force for social liberation, became a tool for optimizing urban space in favor of capitalist efficiency. This is evident in post-war European housing projects like Unit de Habitation, which thought intended to improve living conditions, were repurposed for cost-effective mass housing. Similarly, corporate skyscrapers in cities like New York and London symbolize architectural process, but primarily reinforce financial power and urban wealth concentration. Contemporary cases such as China's speculative real estate developments and gentrification-driven transformation in cities like San Francisco further illustrate how modernist ideals were co-opted by economic forces. As Tafuri argues, modernism's utopian aspirations were absorbed by capital, turning architecture into an instrument of economic control rather than social emancipation.
Urban vision is an alternative to traditional and modern city planning approaches. It is a design approach where different areas of the city are used together with different styles. The college approach involves using elements from different periods and functions together. This method allows cities to harmonize with each other. The fragmented nature means there is no single type of planning approach. The city is considered a combination of various parts, which creates different identities. Rowe and Cotter argue that city planning should be done in a more organic way, considering the historical and cultural context of cities. Cities should be planned in a layered manner rather than homogeneously. Using different areas allows cities to adapt to changing conditions. Rowe and Cotter also emphasize the importance of green spaces and public areas. These spaces help maintain ecological balance. These types of approaches are examples of how Rowe and Cotter's fragmented college-like urban vision can be applied to modern urban.
For Tafuri, architecture should produce results not only with an aesthetic understandings, but also by taking into account the requirements of the capitalist system. At the same time, architecture can also emerge as a reflection of political and social situations. Tafuri considers Planis's compromisio significant because it highlights the fine line between historical context and imagination. Compromisio embodies an attitude that challenged the late Baroque period. It represents a contention between architecture and the city. According to Palliser, rationality and irrationality should be used together, and Taffer exemplifies this as a complexity of modernism. Taffer gives Americans' grid plan system as an example of how architecture is manipulated in line with economic interests. This grid plan system reflects the capitalist desire for order and homogeneous urbanization. Moreover, he argued that the innovative nature of avant-gardism is exploited by capitalism for its own interests. Additionally, movements like Dada and Destiche assist Taffer in exploring the boundaries of modernism. Le Corbusier argues that the plan should be shaped not only by its architectural structure, but also by the necessity of capital. Taffer agrees with this view, advocating for solutions that consider individual creativity, socio-economic structure, historical context, and ideological tendencies. Taffer's thoughts will help us adopt a critical perspective on urban structuring, providing a sustainable and fair development.
Today, we talked about 4 questions related to speculative visions and their relevance.